So when I originally reviewed my Cartier Pasha, I said one of the disadvantages was that because of the hinge lugs, you have to go with custom straps. But is that really such a bad thing? Hi everyone and welcome to Shaluso, and yes, today I'm going to be talking about how to change the strap on Cartier Pasha as well as my experience in getting custom straps made for my Pasha. Now of course, if you want to jump ahead at any point, you can always find the timestamps in the description. But before I get started, I want to give a big thanks to Javid from Coro Customs for making all of the straps featured within this. He didn't lend them in or give them to me. I actually bought each and every one of these with my own money. But they're just really good quality straps, so I want to give him a shout out, and also to the India Watch Company group, which helped me find Javid as well. I think wherever you are in the world, it's important to find your local watch community, so go on Facebook, join a group, find people who are around you. It's a great way to communicate and find new people, and a great way to find actual local suppliers of things like custom straps. But let's get right into it first, and I'm going to start off with how to actually change the strap on a Cartier Pasha. Now, of course, with the brand new one that just came out, it has quick release straps, so this isn't an issue. This is a video about the ones that have the screws. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get a slightly elevated surface for you to work with. The reason why you want to do this is because you want to have a little bit of clearance. You also want to make sure that the bracelet is open, that way you have as much slack as possible with the bracelet. And you're going to need 2 screwdrivers. You may have to play around with a few different sizes, but essentially if you get 2 sets of jeweler's screwdrivers, you should be able to find the right size for both sides of the screw. And also do bear in mind when you're getting screwdrivers, make sure you don't get magnetic ones because those can mess with what goes on inside your watch. You want to make sure your screwdrivers are non-magnetic. And essentially what you have to do is you just have to stick one screwdriver in the other end just to hold the tube still. And then the other one, you're going to be using it to actually unscrew the screw that holds the lug in place. You can screw both of them in opposite directions at the same time if you want to do it quicker, but bear in mind that the screwdrivers may come loose as you do that. And as you're doing this, you need to make sure everything is done delicately. You don't want to scratch anything. You don't want to force anything. This is still a luxury product. You want to make sure that you are treating it with some respect. Otherwise, you're going to end up with some very scratched screws, if not a scratched case or bracelet. So as you do that, every so often, you can also check with your fingers to make sure if it's come loose. I always recommend that as soon as you can get your hands involved, instead of a metal tip screwdriver, always try and do that because that's another way you can avoid scratching your watch or your bracelet. And then you simply pull them apart, repeat the same thing on the other side as well, and then you're left with the watch head on its own. And you'll see that it's actually quite a small profile for a watch. You know, by having those hinge lugs, it really can fit most wrists despite being a 40-41 millimeter watch, because it doesn't actually have such a big, what would be considered lug to lug on most conventional watches. Then to put on the new strap, you reverse the process, put on your strap, screw everything back in. With all of these screws, do bear in mind they are perfectly normal screws. They work on the basic principle of righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. No matter how fancy your watch, for the most part, screws are still screws and they work the same way as everything else, so no need to overcomplicate it too much. And then there you have it. You have a new strap attached to your watch. So it is actually quite a simple process. Normally I can get this done in about 5 minutes, bearing in mind that my watch is about 12 years old. So the rubber seals on the screws can sometimes be a little bit eccentric, shall we say. Sometimes the seal catches before the screw actually goes in, so you have to try it a few times. But in general, you should be able to do this with practice within about 5 to 10 minutes, and it is one of the easier things to change once you get the hang of it. It is somewhat less frustrating, for example, than spring bars, which by the nature of having a spring-loaded component can make it a little bit unnerving sometimes because you might be putting too much pressure. With this, you can actually change it without having to put very much pressure. It means you can be more delicate and protect your watch from, for lack of a better word, yourself. Now, moving on to actually getting custom straps. So as I mentioned in my original review, I actually counted it as a disadvantage against this watch that it is harder to find straps for it in terms of on the open market. For the most part, you're going to have to go custom unless you want to shell out a lot of money for the OEM straps. And originally I thought this was going to be a difficult task, But thankfully, Javid at Cora Customs actually made this a very simple process. First, what I had to do is I had to send him some measurements of the watch. Because I'm currently based in Delhi, he's based in another city in India, so I couldn't just give him the watch for him to measure it himself or to make a mold or anything like that. So I took a few pictures with my phone, measured it out with my spring bar tool, which has a little ruler on it, and gave him the dimensions so that he could actually see what he needed to work with. And the first one was just a pure leap of faith. So as it was my first strap for this watch, I wanted to go with something that was gonna go with everything, that would be simple to make, and also I didn't want to go too elaborate because I didn't know what it was gonna cost to make these until I actually had them made. However, as these are custom, you can get all sorts of materials. Everything gets priced accordingly to the job or the intricacy of doing it, and that's something to always bear in mind with custom work. Do not expect standardization. It's not like these just come off an assembly line. So with my first option, I wanted to go for black Saffiano leather. I had recently, just before buying my Pasha, bought a belt from Mont Blanc that had the same sort of Saffiano pattern. This is of course a pattern that's been most popularized by Prada in a lot of their leather goods and their leather bags. So it's a very elegant look, but it's still something a little bit more interesting than just having plain grain leather. So I went with black and with contrasting stitching. Over the last few months, just through normal use, the original white stitching has colored a little bit to sort of a off-white, which I think actually gives it a lot of cool natural patina. So it's something that I decided to stick with all of my straps that I've got. All of them, I get them with white stitching on the hope that they'll age a bit over time. It gives them a little bit more personality. And this is a great option because it really goes with anything. But for the most part, despite it being black, you would normally think that's the more formal one. With this strap, I actually wear it mostly informal. It's something that goes great with a leather jacket. It goes great just sitting on your wrist if you're wearing a t-shirt. It really goes with everything, and it has that elegance to it, but not necessarily something that it's so formal that you can't wear casual wear with it either. So after having gotten that done, gotten the relief that it worked, it fit perfectly, it all worked perfectly fine, I was ready for my next few. So one of the ideas that I had the first time I got a strap made was I wanted something that would match the cabochon on the side of the crown. This is something that is really an iconic signature for most Cartier watches. Things like the cabochon, the secret signature, the black and white color schemes, the railroad seconds. These are all little details that you find on almost every Cartier watch. And I wanted to really put a little bit of an emphasis on the cabochon on the crown. So I wanted something in blue. Since the Saffiano was something I was going to use more for casual wear, I wanted something that would still go good with a suit. So what I opted for was a blue Cepici leather crocodile print. So this isn't real crocodile, but that's fine. It's a nice, very subtle embossing, so it's not too deep. It's something that you just notice when you look up close. And this, honestly, it looks amazing. It matches perfectly with the cabochon. In the light, it changes. It can be anything from being really, really dark to shining almost electric blue. So it even has that sort of color changing aspect that the actual stone has as well. And again, this is done with contrasting stitch and a deployant buckle. I personally don't like pin buckles at all. I dropped my Steinhardt once when I used the pin buckle, and since then I said no, I'm only going to be going for deployants, because if you're a little bit clumsy like me, it's just simply not worth it. I would say shell out the money, get yourself a good deployant clasp. They're not even that expensive, and you'll protect your watch from the danger of it falling off as you're putting it on. And then the other one that I commissioned was something a little bit different. So my best friend is getting married next year, and part of the sort of color theme that he's got for all the groomsmen is we all have to be wearing sort of tan suits, and all of our shoes, leather belts, etc. has to be sort of tan or brown color. And I thought to myself, all right, well, if I'm going to do that, then I definitely need to get a watch strap to match. I mean, right now, my Cartier is the closest thing I have to a dress watch, so it's probably the one I would be wearing. So I asked Javid if we could get something that looks similar, like a nice tone of sort of tan or light brown that I had seen Hermes using. And he told me that he can actually get the same leather from Tannery Haas, which is the supplier for Hermes, that Hermes uses for their watch straps. So I said, great, let's do it. And the final result is, it's simply amazing. You know, Hermes and Cartier are both iconic maisons. Obviously, Hermes makes its own watches now as well. But just the marriage of that French style of leather work with the French style of watchmaking and jewelry design, it really just goes and pairs perfectly. And this is something that, again, it's extremely versatile. Leather straps, I think, often get a little bit of a stigma that, maybe they're too formal, but really they can reach the full spectrum, or you can get ones that are outright casual or outright formal. And this end result, it's simply amazing. Again, it has the white stitch, it has the little contrast that also matches up with the white or off-white coloration of the dial. It really just all works together, and it's an amazing result. So that's my experience so far with getting custom leather straps and changing the strap on my Cartier Pasha. This is probably the watch that I do change the strap for the most, and it's the one that I think really lends itself to having those changes. In terms of future, what I'm thinking is probably getting something done in red, get my my Mr. Wonderful on a little bit, and also get something that matches the actual Cartier box. So probably gonna be maybe red Saffiano leather, or maybe some other print. Let me know in the comments below what you think I should do in terms of getting a red strap for this. What sort of pattern or what sort of texture should I opt for? It'd be great to have your input as well. And of course, another big thanks to Javid from Coral Customs for making all of these. I'll leave a link to his Instagram below if you are in India. I'm not sure if he sends internationally, but it won't hurt to check him out. And I definitely encourage you to look in your local communities as well for people who make watch straps, because it's a great way to support the industry. It's a great way to really personalize your watch and get something that will make your watch even more unique. So I hope you like this video. If you do, make sure you like it and share it. If you want to see more pictures of my new straps that I've gotten from my Cartier, make sure you follow me on Instagram @Shaluso. And if you want to keep seeing new watch videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell as well so you can know when my next video comes up. In any case, thanks for watching this video. We'll catch you on the next one.